On November 7th, 1971, around 300 people gathered here at Barcelona's Sant Agustí church in the Raval neighborhood. The clandestine meeting started with 5 minutes of silence in honor of Antonio Ruiz Villalba, a trade unionist who had been murdered by police only days earlier at the Sant factory strike. As Franco's fascist dictatorship neared its end, it began to be met with a more emboldened opposition, and the secret gathering of a very diverse group of dissidents, many of whom became distinguished politicians, lawyers, and cultural figures years later, resulted in the creation of the Assemblea de Catalunya, the Assembly of Catalonia.
It was very dangerous, but we were quite optimistic. Following what started, for example, with the May 68 movements in all Europe, and I would say in all the world, and to see that the Franco dictatorship was getting old and was getting with big holes among their forces, that was even helping people to go farther of the fear of repression.
The Assembly of Catalonia, made up of various trade unions and other political and cultural groups that were illegal at the time, as well as civil society organizations, had 4 key demands: social and political freedom, an amnesty for the dictatorship's political prisoners, the reimplementation of Catalonia's Second Republic autonomy statute, which restored self-rule for the first time in 200 years, and to seek alliances with other clandestine pro-democracy organizations throughout Spain. The group would frequently meet in churches. Not only did some priests sympathize with the anti-Franco movement, but there was also a 1953 agreement with the Vatican that generally made churches police-free zones.
Another in 1974, 87 people. But at that time we were already thousands and thousands.
But on October 28, 1973, they surrounded the Santa Maria Mitjancera church in Barcelona, and 113 people were arrested. The men were sent to La Model prison, notorious for torture and executions, while the women were sent to the La Trinitat prison.
Another in 1974, 87 people. But at that time we were already thousands and thousands.
Although the assembly was still active following Franco's death in 1975 and continued to organize a number of peaceful protests during the transition to democracy, promoted the Entesa dels Catalans electoral alliance, and campaigned for an autonomy statute, the group dissolved not long after the first democratic elections in 1977. The Assembly of Catalonia is remembered for being one of the most relevant instances in recent history in which people of diverse ideologies came together to repudiate a common adversary, Francoism.
We need to recuperate a ground where different parties put together main goals that they cannot be property of anybody, like social justice, like equality of gender.
Not only has this historic group been remembered with street names across Catalonia, but the 50th anniversary of its creation has been commemorated by trade unionists and politicians, as well as a parliamentary event.